a demonstration of the materials, knots, and assembly tips for tying your own deadly kokanee lures. Your 10-pound test fluorocarbon. I like 10-pound because it transfers motion from the dodger, if you're using a dodger, to your spinner or your hoochie a little bit better than the lighter pound test. You really only need about 6-pound tests for catching kokanee, but again, transfers motion a little bit better. So you got your bag with a variety of different spinners, some beads. I'm getting a little bit low, so I just reordered some stuff. Your barrel swivels, bag full of hoochies, your Gamakatsu octopus hooks in a couple of different sizes, and then these little U guys, which you would use to attach your blade to the line so the blade spins. So let me show you how to assemble one of these guys. First things first, just like my kokanee rigs, I use 2 different sized hooks. So one of these is slightly larger than the other. These are both octopus style hooks, and you're going to have a 2-hook system here, so you'll have a trailer hook. With a kokanee rig, you want those 2 hooks to be set fairly close to one another like so, and they'll be sticking out the back end of either your beaded spinner or your hoochie, whatever rig you decide to tie up. I typically want the smaller hook to be the trailer hook and the larger hook to be the one that you tie on first. So you go through the eye, and you pull out lots and lots of slack. And the reason you want to use so much slack is because you're going to put about 7 wraps around the shank of this hook, and then you're still going to want to have enough slack afterwards to go ahead and tie the same knot on your second hook. And if you don't leave yourself enough slack, that second knot can be difficult, if not impossible, to tie. Once you go through the eye, take that shorter end, double it back, so you've made a loop. What I'm going to do from this point is I'm going to take that shorter end, that tag end, I'm going to wrap it around the shank somewhere between 5 and 7 times. Okay, so once you get your last wrap, I pinch it right there along the shank. I've still got my tag end, and I've got a loop in the back of my hook now. So I'm going to pass this end through the loop, and then I'm very carefully going to tighten this down. Once you get that drawn down tight, you're going to want to go ahead and push those wraps up towards the eye of the hook. So get them nice and snug against the eye. That's the finished product that you're going for. Alright, so you can see those nice tight wraps, and that is a very, very sturdy knot. Now I've left myself probably just enough room to get that second hook on there. And it's the exact same knot. So you'll take your tag end again, through the eye, and I get it nice and close to the first hook. And the reason why you do that is because as you draw it tight, you're going to be kind of introducing slack into the line, and you want those 2 hooks to line up about like that, where the eye is right around where the first hook ends. So in order to have that appropriate spacing, I find that you want to start your knot with those 2 hooks fairly close together. All right. Okay, so that's a finished product, and that spacing worked out pretty good. As you can see, eye of the hook is just about touching the bend of the shank, or the bend of that primary hook. So that is what a kokanee leader should look like, obviously with smaller scale stuff. Alright, so this is a size that's a little bit more appropriate for our target species, kokanee. Kokanee are a sockeye salmon, if you're unfamiliar with the species. Feisty little fish, and one of the tastiest, I think, in our local reservoirs. Typically, like I said, the fishing for kokanee starts around April, and it carries through all the way into late summer. The hotter the weather and the later you get into summer, typically the deeper the kokanee will go in the water column. So this time of year, I'm anticipating, and it really depends on the conditions. We just had a really wet winter, so things are not exactly in a familiar pattern, but I'm anticipating the fish somewhere in the top 10 to 25 feet of the water column this time of year. So water has a different effect on light than air does, obviously. Water scatters light much more rapidly, so that affects what colors can be seen underwater. So the fish have a hard time perceiving red, orange, and yellow in the deeper water. So red, and I'll show you a little bit of a chart that I'll put into this video, but red is generally visible at about 15 feet or shallower, and again, it depends on water clarity and other conditions, light conditions, etc. But I'm going to tie up probably some pinks and oranges today, because I think that's going to be the ideal color pattern for some of the lakes I plan on fishing here pretty shortly. So I'll just show you an example of how to throw one of these things together real quick. So I generally want to have, it looks like I gave myself about 16 inches here, maybe 18 inches of leader line to work with. That should be enough. It looks like I really got one orange option. And it's small, which is also something I like early season. Now this needle will help you thread your hoochie onto your line. But first we're going to put a few beads down so that we space things out between the hooks and the hoochie skirt. You don't want these hooks tucked so far up inside your hoochie that these little plastic pieces are going to interfere with the bite. I generally want both hooks to be mostly clear of that skirt. We got these gold stacker beads. I'm curious how that's going to look on there. On there, I do like the hoochie blade combo, so let's see what we got as far as blade colors. I think I have a Dakota spinner that's orange colored that would go nicely with this rig. Let's see if we can't find that. There we go. It's a little V blade. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these spinner U's or whatever. I'm not sure what the actual term is for it, but that's what allows the blade to spin. See if you can see that. It's kind of hard with my fat fingers, but it's a U-shaped piece of metal with a hole on either end. So that U gets placed through your spinner, like so. And then you run your line through the U. And there you have it. So that will spin nicely in the water. So it's got a little bit of orange, a little bit of chrome, a little gold on there. It's fairly appealing. I think I'll keep that rig. And then all you would do is tie a barrel swivel on the other end and call it done. So that is an example, and you can see how simple it is, of tying up your own homemade kokanee spinner. So that cost me $1 instead of $5, and it was fun. Here are a few other finished lures. As you can see, some with blade, some without, some with beads, some hoochie, and obviously in a variety of different colors. So you can keep yourself pretty busy tying up all the different varieties that you would use on a lake on any given day. Enjoy tying your own.